Uncle Ben Shalom is on his way out?
Yeah, pretty much. He's going to be gone. Yellen will take his place. Yellen's more in line with the White House than Ben is. Besides, Ben's a Republican.
Does it matter when you're
No, it's. I mean, that's Ben's on a PR exercise. I mean, that's why he was on NPR over the weekend, trying to enhance his tarnished image. He's lobbying for a second term. A lot of people don't think he'll get it.
Well, I think this would be the first time in the Fed chairman history that the guy serves one term, or may not even make it a full term, as being Fed chairman.
Well, it's a crazy world in which we live, when down is up and up is down.
By the way,
I think the biggest financial story out there that's getting very little coverage, and I understand why it's getting very little coverage, because if it got more coverage, it would destroy whatever credibility Wall Street had, and that is the expose of high-frequency trading, flash trading that allows Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, and the rest of the big boys to peek at orders before they are placed. I don't know if Bob feels that way.
Well, I've certainly written a lot about it, and they're trying to cover it up. And it's interesting that I made a submittal for AM, FM, ABC, NBC, Fox, CBS, and not one of them would touch it. They wouldn't talk about it. And I'm carrying a link to a tape in my issue tomorrow. I don't know if you've seen it. Elliot Spitzer and what is his name? Dylan.
Dylan Ratigan.
Ratigan used to be on CNBC.
Yeah.
It's a masterful piece. I got some great links in this one. And we try to pick up as many interesting links as we can. We've got a very big health section because of this swine flu garbage that's going around. And, that's prompting a lot of people to move out of the country into countries that will be, say, if you want them, you can have them. Whereas the United States and Europe, the Gestapo is going to march around and make sure you get them.
How are they doing? How are they doing with the Treasury sales, Bob?
Well, I wasn't following them today. But what are we talking about? $235 billion, Robbie?
Yep, $250 billion.
That's just in 1 week. Now, annualized, I got the numbers in the publication, but I think it's about $10.1 trillion a year.
Yep. Today, I think was 7-year notes.
They've been what?
I think there were 7-year notes that were auctioned off today.
Yeah, those are unusual. You don't see many of those. I mean, who would want to buy long-term paper? They'd have to be crazy.
Well, that's pretty much what's been going on. I think people have been getting out of long-term paper, moving it to short-term paper. People think that it's fresh buying coming into the market, where it's just just reorganization. Could be wrong.
Well, it's just like the stock market. 70% of trades are black box.
Yep.
They just running all over the place all day long. I mean, the real volume in the market is not consequential. It'll be interesting to see if Schumer files legislation to stop the black box trading by the likes of Goldman Sachs.
All right, we'll take this break. We'll take your calls this hour, folks, at 800-313-9443. Everybody wants to pile up in the second hour. You may initiate conversation that will be beneficial to a lot of people. So let your fingers do the dialing. Faggot bought a jet airplane. Now that the hate crime legislation has passed, can I still say that? I don't care. I just did.
Well, it's only passed one house.
By the way, I'm going to play this clip for you guys. Congressman Stearns, Cliff Stearns, Republican out of the 6th District of Florida, grilled our Mr. Hanky Panky Paulson, and you got to hear this exchange. This is one of the best ones I've heard so far.
Thank you very much. I ask unanimous consent that Mr. Stearns and Mr. Garrett be allowed to participate, and, of course, without objection, so ordered. And I now
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And, Mr. Paulson, I hear your pain when you said you're just pained to be on that side of the table answering the gentleman's question. But isn't it true that Goldman Sachs benefited from AIG bailout? They got $13 billion and was the largest recipient of the public funds from AIG. And, in fact, creating the collateralized debt obligation, the CDOs, form the basis of the current crisis we have today. But while you were CEO of Goldman Sachs, you were an active part of that business. So my problem is when you say you're pained by AIG, I go back to your bait and switch when you came here into Congress and you suddenly decided instead of buying the toxic loans, you're going to go out and start to give money to these people. So if you didn't have any credibility on the bait and switch, how do you have any credibility today to come before us and tell us that you're pained by AIG?
Well, let me respond.
Do you understand the credibility you have? You came here, you said in this 2.5-page bill that you wanted $750 billion. Then immediately after you got approval from Congress, you changed it. You baited us on, then you switched it, and then you started giving money to these institutions, the top 15 institutions, when all these people who had the loans, you could have worked out a homeowners equity plan around this country to help the people who are actually having their homes foreclosed. You're helping AIG and you're helping Bank of America and you're bankrupting Lehman Brothers, who is your biggest competition. Isn't there some point you should have recused yourself and said, you know something, all my buddies in Goldman Sachs are over there. You know, I really feel that I shouldn't be making these decisions to make Lehman Brothers go bankrupt, that I really should recuse myself. And the fact is that you're coming here and say you feel the pain of AIG is just, it's just outrageous.
Well, I would like to respond to you, Congressman, because I find your statement outrageous.
Okay, Mr. Paulson. Well, let me tell you, I have the time, Mr. Paulson. Let me just say one other thing.
No, I just want you speaking to the mic. Pull the mic.
Okay.
Let me just say one other thing here. You know, when you look at, you're saying to us, you support the Obama administration giving more power to the federal regulatory, the Fed. But when you look, the Fed was on, Geithner was on board at the Fed, the New York Fed, dealing with all these institutions. He didn't get it. And then we had this fellow who came up afterward, Mr. Friedman. He was on the Goldman Sachs board, and he didn't last too long as the Fed chairman. Why? Because he had a conflict of interest. Is it possible that there's so much conflict of interest here that all you folks don't even realize that you're helping people that you're associated with, and you should be recusing yourself for America's ethics?
Let me make several comments. The first comment I will say is I came to Congress, I asked for the TARP, and I asked for authority to purchase illiquid assets.
But in 10 days you changed your opinion.
We changed because the situation changed dramatically.
In 10 days?
You betcha. If you look at what happened in that 10-day period, you look at what happened around the world, it changed dramatically. Number one. Secondly,
I don't want you to use all my time.
Okay, but I want to just respond to secondly. I left Goldman Sachs. I sold my shares in Goldman Sachs.
Tax deferred too. You didn't have to pay any tax on your $200 million.
I sold my shares in Goldman Sachs.
The clause that if you come into the administration, you sell your assets, it's tax deferred. You don't have to pay $200. If you had $200 million profit, and you didn't have to pay any tax. Isn't that true?
Listen, is
that true or not? Yes or no?
You do not pay a profit when someone a tax when someone makes you sell assets.
Maybe that was for you become Secretary of Treasury, so you didn't have to pay the tax there.
Oh. The next thing I would say to you, and say it very, very clearly, is I behaved with the...
You don't think you should have recused yourself when you asked Lehman to go in bankruptcy, you didn't put Bear Stearns in bankruptcy, and then you folded Merrill Lynch into... I mean, isn't there some point where you got to say, hey, I got a conflict of interest here? You don't feel any kind of scintilla of ethics on this thing at all?
Totally. I operated very consistently within the ethic guidelines I had as Secretary of the Treasury, and when it became clear that we had some very significant issues with Goldman Sachs and with
Why didn't you recuse yourself
with Morgan Stanley. What I did then, it would have been very wrong for me to recuse myself. What I did was I went and got a waiver from the ethics agreement, because when we had concerns...
Who is in charge of the ethics agreement?
What?
Who's in charge of the ethics agreement that you got a waiver?
We have a Office of Ethics at Treasury, and we have a White House ethics office.
So you got it from the legal counsel from the White House?
We got it from the government ethics office.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your courtesy. And I ask you now to consent my opening statement to be part of the record.
Without objection, so ordered.
Yep.
The Congresswoman from California.